Computer.
There we go. Cool. Wonderful. Here's Marge.
I got this. I know we've been on Zoom for a while, but I'm still out here learning new things.
Yeah.
Okay. I think everybody is here so far. Thanks for meeting with us. Hi, Aliya. Hey, what's up, BSU? I haven't seen you guys in a minute. Right on. Hey, Marge.
Hello, everybody.
So I just want to start off by, wait, what'd you say? Wow, okay. So I just want to start off by saying thank you for meeting with us. You know me, but I'll introduce myself a bit. I'm Nikki Hatfield. I'm the president of the Black Student Union. We're here to talk about BSU goals, and we're just excited to be in conversation with you. And for you guys that don't know who Aliya is that's on the call, she works for DCYF, which is Department of Children, Youth, and Families. You know the grant that SMAC was dispersing, the $500 grant? She was one of the people that advocated and ensured that we got that money. So one of the things that I know for sure is that, you know, you are an ally and you help out. So I'm going to stop talking so much, and I'm going to start giving you some context around Black Student Union, what we're advocating for, which is really structural change and sustainability in our programs. We see that there's like a lack of visibility around Black programs and like the investment in our Black programs. So we really want to put some action around the rhetoric of students first. And I'm just going to dive in. You ready?
I am. I got my notebook.
You want to do introductions
Okay, cool.
first, though?
All right.
You want to make sure that everybody introduces themselves, like the three people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Y'all just jump in. I introduced myself.
Well, okay, yeah. Nikki is so important. And then Aliya, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kier. I'm the vice president.
Hi, Kier.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Aliya?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Is there anyone else on the line? So it just the three of us? And then I got Marge. I don't know who that, who's that number? Who's that 542
That's
number?
Me.
That's
you. I'm calling in on my phone because something's really weird with my mic.
Got it. And then CK is probably Clayton.
Yeah,
Clayton. Hey. Yeah, Clayton's my campaign manager, does everything manager. So, and then that's Hithika. She's like my ride or die homie from high school who's also helping with my campaign. So we've got a whole grassroots campaign here.
Right on for connecting us. I know Hithika was talking to Trillia, doing all of the background behind the scenes things. So yeah, shout out to you.
Yes. So yeah, I'll
shout out to Marge for making this happen too.
Yeah, and thank you, Marge. Like, and thank you, Nikki, Trillia, and Kier for being on this call, for taking time out of your schedule to speak with me. And so, just some background about me: born and raised in San Francisco, grew up in D11, in Lakeview. So. Went to SFUSC, went to Sunnyside, Aptus, Lowell, and then for college, I went to Davis, and then for grad school, I went to Columbia, where I got my master's in education policy, trying to understand our educational systems, who makes the decisions, who sits at the table, and how do we make sure our systems are serving underrepresented students, Black and brown students, low-income students, foster youth. And so I've been on this journey for a really long time and have never thought about running for office in my life. Just knew that I wanted to work in education. I used to be a part of a program called Aim High. I was a student in the program, and then I graduated and just fell in love, came back every summer and taught. And so I joined DCYF about a year and a half and had no clue about the inner workings of City College, honestly, until I started going to the Board of Trustees meetings. And I was like, okay, like there's a lot of tension here. That was my first reaction. Like there's a lot of tension. Why is there so much tension? Was able to build some relationships with teachers, AFT, but really wanted to figure out like student perspectives. And so I got connected to Lena, had a great conversation with Lena, and I was like, can you tell me, and she started telling me about the work around AB 705, the new funding formula. And so I started to understand some of these things, and then Lena, I don't know how me and Marge met, but we were just like, but we connected, and then I connected with Brian, who gave me like really great insight on student issues. And so, I mean, I'm running for City College Board because honestly, I'm very inspired by your advocacy and the student body at City College and advocating for student needs. How can I be an ally? And I'm going to be honest, like, I'm not always going to get it right. If I'm elected, I'm probably not always going to get it right. But I want you to know that if I am elected, I will always come to the table. I always expect the same from y'all to also let me know what's going on, and having me have a pulse on the inner workings of the college. And so, I mean, I have to be honest, this is a tough race. There's like, I think 13 of us. So it's a tough race. It's coveted. There's a lot of people that want to be on this board.
Definitely.
People are running.
Yes. And I think student perspectives are the most important. So, and that's why I talked to Hithika and Marge. Like, this was one of the key things that as I'm running, I want to know about student issues. I want to highlight student issues. So I want to win, but at the end of the day, like, if I don't win, if I can at least have used my platform so that other people know about some of the things that you all are taking on and fighting for, then that's also a win for me. So, because it's in the long fight that we're all doing. So anyway, that's my long-winded spiel.
That was great. that was a wonderful introduction. Your name and occupation would have been fine, but good job. And I'm Trillia Hargrove, she, her pronouns, just saying. And a BSU member. I'm an advocate for equity, equity populations, and yeah, I'm the joint facilitator along with Nikki. So
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, go on, Nikki.
Muted.
You're muted. You're muted on your phone. On your phone. Oh no, it's the dreaded Zoom dilemma.
Still can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Nikki. It's on your phone. Your phone says it's muted. No. Okay. Huh. I wish there was like on the record thing, there was like a place where you could stop and then we could just come back and everything's fixed, you know? It's not working. It's not on your computer, it's on your phone. And I don't know what's going on with your phone. Okay, well, I can ask the first question, you know, while you're sorting it out. Is that okay? It's not. All right, cool. So we gave you this question just to kind of reflect on what's something you believed earlier in your career that you think about differently now. So whatever that means for you.
Yeah. I always thought that if you worked really hard and got an education, I always thought, like, everyone says education is a great equalizer, and I've been able to, you know, I think it's obviously a lot of factors, but my education and the opportunities and the teachers and the folks and the scholarships, all the stuff that I got has led me to come to this point. But as I started to study systems and understand systems and how the odds are stacked against our most vulnerable student populations, that it's not just that education is the equalizer. Oh, there we go. But that it requires a lot of intention and intentional effort in order to make sure that students are reaching their goals. And so I don't know. And I think like figuring out how do you shape policy? And then not only how do you shape it, how is that policy implemented? And then once you're looking at the implementation, did it go with the original goal?
Yeah.
So that iterative process, I guess, is something that I've learned about that has made it's not that simple. Is that like everybody here's a school, you can go to school and you can expand access and improve your lives? Like no, that's not. So anyway, yeah.
So I had to cut out for a second. I heard the end of your question. Trill, did you ask the first question or the second?
Yes,
Could we
I asked the first question.
Okay.
I asked the first question.
Okay.
And I can ask the second question because yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you for that answer. That is definitely an equity position, and we stand. And do you have a background in educational equity? I feel like we kind of answered that, but if so, please tell us about it. You kind of said it in your introduction, but it's always good to finish these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I do. I can talk about some of the specific things that I've started, like working in schools to working on policy that impacts schools. I would say like one of the ones when I was a legislative aide, I worked on legislation to ban the box on private college applications, which is something that not a lot of people know about. They know about banning the box when it comes, like when employers ask for criminal history information when it comes to like employment. But not a lot of people know that that's actually asked on college applications too, and how it actually serves as a barrier for people that might have been formerly incarcerated. So when they're actually applying, looking at the application and see that question, they're likely to not complete the application. So I worked on legislation to ban that on private schools in San Francisco because we had purview over private schools. And then when it came to the Free City College program, I pushed really hard for there to be disaggregated data reporting about who is accessing the program. And I think data is key. We need data in order to make the case of having these hard conversations about, well, what are the demographics of the student population? How are students doing? And using that as a way to leverage city resources, not to be punitive, like, oh, City College, you're doing a bad job with this, like terrible, bad, but like, okay, we're seeing this problem. There's like a whole bunch of city programs. How can we start linking it maybe into Free City, like to support students, to support underrepresented student populations reach their goal? So I guess like that's like some of the two things that come out for my educational equity work.
Right on. Thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. You're good.
All right, I'm gonna go into the third question. So what is your strategy? You've talked a lot about the work that you do, and it's impressive, let me just say. So, but what is your strategy to rectify the harm in education in regards to Black students? And just to give you some context, harm is bad policy, underrepresentation, and underfunded programs.
Yeah, that is, if I were, I don't think I have an answer to that, honestly. And I think it's a complex issue, and it's, but I mean, some of the things that I was actually listening to the call yesterday that you were on, and so it was really powerful because you said a lot of great stuff. But institutional departmental aid, right, that can be given to the African American Resource Center or the department. So I think that pushing for policies like that, or making sure our budget has funds for that, I think could be one way to address some of the inequities. But yeah, I wish I had a more clear answer for that. I'm open to listening if there are ideas that I can advocate for.
Awesome. I appreciate you being on the call yesterday. It was like, how effective is this call going to be? So that was my big question yesterday. But yeah, departmental aid and funds for the AFAM is one of the goals that we're trying to make happen for BSU, is making sure that our programs are funded, because there's no reason why a African American Resource Center has to borrow money from the Latinx Club when we know that they have their own hindrances, like they have their own struggles, and you're basically giving $1 to people and asking us to split it. And then it's like, what are we doing? You know?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna let Troy ask you the next question.
Yeah, I think actually, like, that previous question, one of the harms, Nikki said underrepresentation, and that kind of goes into this fourth question. Are you familiar with or aware of the Affirmative Action Task Force and their mission to instate a black full-time faculty member in the African American Studies Department? Yeah, if you know anything about that, what's going on?
Yeah, sorry, you got cut out a little bit. Could you say it again?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The question is, are you familiar with the Affirmative Action Task Force and their mission to instate a full-time faculty member for the African American Studies Department, and also beyond, but this is something they're focusing on?
So this is, yes, I wouldn't say that I'm familiar with the task force. I've been on AFT's website. I've actually looked at that report that former chair Aliya Salahuddin drafted, which is a college within a college. And what she did is really highlight some of the systemic inequities, the lack of diversity in the faculty at City College. And I think it's important to have someone that is African American representing the department, but I also think that it needs to be throughout the college, that we need diversity throughout the faculty at City College of San Francisco, not just at a bare minimum there, but throughout in leadership as well. So I don't know how effective the task force is. I don't know how much has been accomplished. And it will be interesting, right? Because Prop 16 at the state level to repeal Prop 209, which basically prohibited affirmative action. If that passes in November, then right, we could start looking at race in hiring practices as well. So kind of seeing how that's going to play out will be something else for us to keep our eye on. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Academic Senate that does hiring primarily for faculty.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure. Marge is on call. Marge knows. Come on, Marge.
Spotlight Marge.
She's probably like with her cam down, like, oh my gosh, I do not have the answer to that either. But I will get back to you on that.
Because it would be interesting to know, right? And then like, to be completely honest, I've been trying to figure out, right, like what levers can you pull as a trustee?
Right.
Because you're the trustee, the chancellor reports to you, the chancellor, then the administration reports to the chancellor, then there's a shared governance model at City College of San Francisco. So we have to respect that, but figuring out, like, the more we understand, right, how the shared governance works, how these different systems work together, figuring out what role the trustees or I could play in advocacy.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Next question.
Okay, that is me. Yeah. All right. So, very simple question: have you taken any classes in African American Studies?
Did I in college? I don't think I have. No, I have not.
Okay. Don't mention it. No, I'm kidding. All right. So, Trill, that's a very quick answer, no answer. So, you could ask this very long 6-point question.
Okay, so this one's about budget. Do you know about any? Is my mic okay? Just checking first.
Yeah, your mic is fine.
This is a long one.
Yeah.
Do you know about any allocations of funds in the budget that are specific to Black students? That could be in the budget or scholarships or the like. Please tell us about them if you do. Because it's good to, like, you know, we hear about these things from students, from, like, we don't always hear about these things off the first day, and so sometimes it's good to, like, share the knowledge and stuff like that. So
Yeah, so I would say a specific scholarship in the existing budget for, could you repeat the question actually? Yeah.
do you know any allocations of funds in the budget that are specific to Black students? And again, that could be in the budget, like something that's sectioned off for Black student programs or something like that, or scholarships,
Yeah.
or anything other than that.
I don't know, but I imagine, right, the C money, right, would that could be,
Yeah.
I don't think it would be spelled out in the budget, but I would imagine that the C money could be that way, but I don't know explicitly if it exists in the budget.
Yeah.
It would definitely be interesting to see what people are writing up and what they would call it, because some people can see this as reparations money specifically for Black students, and so that's something that we've thought about as well. But anyway, thank you for that answer.
Awesome.
Here you go.
All right. So can you tell us how much money is in the budget, the reserves budget, and would you use this money to support Black students, and if so, how?
Ooh. So I don't know how much money is in the reserves budget. I know it's 5% of their total budget. It's minimum 5% reserve. So what's their total budget? Like 300 million. U fund is 175. I want to say it's like around 9. Is that too high of a number? 6 million. I don't know how much is in the reserve.
Just a rough estimate. Just like a rough estimate, like around 6 million.
Yeah.
In the reserves.
Okay. I think. So I think the college has a lot of finance. The reserve, I think, this is a tough question. I want to think this through a little bit, because if the question is about how do we get additional dollars allocated to support Black students, does that money have to come out of the reserve? Is that the question? Or is it's just identifying funding streams?
I would say the latter. You know, like it would be us trying to identify what budget is allocated towards Black students, and then, oh, we can't identify these allocations. Well, we know that the school has a reserve, right? And this is for, you know, things that arise, right? And right now we see that there's a lack of investment in Black students. So if we can't get any other money, why wouldn't we just tap into the reserves when we have it, if it's a rough estimate of $6 million, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. If we had to, at the very least, go to the reserves, would you be someone willing to advocate for, you know, Black students with this money?
I am completely for advocating for Black students to get additional dollars in their hands. Now, my only concern is that once you dip below 5% of the reserve, you trigger a state accreditation.
Okay.
So, and so I think that's the thing. But I think what we're getting at, right, is that the need is now. Identifying the dollars is incredibly important to support our Black students at City College San Francisco. And it's not something that's impossible. And so I think that it is something that has to be pushed for. If we can ensure that by dipping into the reserve, we're not going to jeopardize the entire college, I'm for it, absolutely. Figuring out wherever, you know, we can cut to get more money into hands of students, I'm all for.
Okay, can I cut in?
Yeah, or do you have a question? No, I'm
So
kidding.
let's
Go
just
ahead.
say, so we know that there's money for us, and we know we just have to find it. Basically, we know what there it's somewhere around there. Maybe it's not written exactly, but it's meant for African Americans, what Black students. If you were to be elected chairman, how would you figure out what would be the best way to use the funding for Black students? How would you figure out a way to even find the funding that's not in the reserve, and dictate how the money would be spent? Or can you do something like that?
Yeah, so I think it would first require conversation with students about what is the best way to use these funds. And sorry, I'm like trying to. Could you repeat the question? I think could you say the question? Sorry.
Yeah. So how would you figure out what the money should be spent on, or how the money should be separated for Black students and African American studies at the school? And how would you decide how that money would be dispersed, or would you put it in charge of someone else to do it?
Well, I don't think I mean, the trustees approve the budget, but it's the administration's responsibility to carry things out. So if I'm elected, I can only make sure that the dollars are being used at the way they're supposed to be used. And so I think I could play a role in advocating at the board that students want the money to be used in a certain way. And so pushing and advocating for it to be used in that direction in my purview as a trustee.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, the shared governance, right? There's a shared governance model, but I would hold the administration accountable, right? I would say, look, we've all agreed that we want the money to be spent this way. Having the discussion, was it spent this way? What's the report, right? Like, accountability is one of the roles that I would play as a trustee.
Absolutely. That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Kier. So next question, and thank you, Aliya, for answering.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your strategy in regards to Black student union demands? And since other people are going to be watching this, I'm just going to give a brief overview of what our demands are. Let me find it. Dang it. Okay. Our first demand, and this is not what we're limited to, but to have a unified Black space and presence that would include the resource centers, the BSU, also the AFAM studies departments, and so on, but making sure that these are interconnected as an establishment. And also, number 2 is networking with high schools so we can promote ourselves to potential CCSF students. This promotes longevity and the circulation of students into the BSU, and we may talk about that a little bit later. And adequate visibility for Black programs. And those are the 3 demands that we have currently.
Got it.
If you need me to repeat the question, I'll be happy to.
So is that how am I going to support you in meeting these demands? Is that the...
What is your strategy in regards to the Black Student Union's demands? Because we sent you the PDF a little bit prior, and if you had the chance to read them, then...
I didn't have a chance to review it,
okay.
honestly. But I've been hearing the demands, so I'm familiar with them. I think the strategy, if elected come January 2021, yeah, I mean, I think the strategy is that perhaps we can draft a resolution. I mean, I could draft a resolution on the Board of Trustees and say that we as a Board of Trustees support these demands and want to see this happen. And we can give the direction to the administration to give a report out about how are we going to amp up the resource center, how are we going to find the space. I mean, I think that could be one approach. Yeah, and I think that working with student groups, like working with you all, to figure out what is a strategy, what is the approach, how are we going to make it happen, what are the issues that you are encountering in advocating for these things as well, and how can we collectively work together to see this through. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
In the words of Kiera, that was the answer I was looking for. No, I'm kidding. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. That sounds amazing. And let me go into the next question. What makes you different in this race being compared to some other people in this race, right? Mm-hmm. You said it's like 13 folks. I know a few things, but go ahead. This is being recorded. We're going to share with other folks.
Yeah. What makes me different? I think, what makes me, well, okay. I think my personal experiences growing up in San Francisco, some of the struggles that I faced as a young Muslim woman of color, I grew up in a low-income household. I think those experiences have really shaped my passion for education and making sure that our systems are serving our most marginalized student populations. And so I think, and then the other thing is that if I'm elected, I'd be the first Muslim woman to be elected in the history of San Francisco, period. So bringing diversity is something else. And I think that City College, the seat also needs someone that is going to hit the ground running. So I've been working, building relationships, like understanding what's happening at the college, understanding what's happening at the state level, trying to figure out the funding formula, like, trying to figure out all these things for some time. So I think that that's going to help me hit the ground running. And then finally, just someone that's able to work with students and have that relationship with students, I think it's really important. It's really, really important to me because if I'm going to be on that board, like I need to know that students are with me as I'm advocating and pushing for these things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Trill, that's you.
All right. For the last question, I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit. But how are you committed to helping the African American Studies Department? And there's also a legacy there that is also kind of we want to carry on. So, like, yeah, what is that?
I mean, I'm completely committed. I will, whether I'm elected or not, I'm happy to stand with you. I'm happy to help you to advocate and do whatever I can in my capacity to making sure that we keep the African American Studies Department, that we have a well-resourced center, and that we're listening to students' needs and demands. And so I think that's something that's important to me, and that's something that I will be committed to if I'm elected in January. And I hope that you will keep me to that commitment if I'm elected.
Yeah, that's a promise.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
so,
actually, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was actually gonna say that concludes our line of questioning. You really got up in the hot seat because you're the first person to come speak with us.
Okay.
So we're working out the kinks and everything, but I truly appreciate you coming and talking to us and reaching out through March and stuff, because I don't think we would have, because at least me personally, I can get so jaded when it comes to the political system at City, and it's sometimes I'm not in the collaborative mindset, right? Where I feel like I can even speak to people that are going to be in positions of power and so I think that this is great, having this conversation and how we're going to continue to have these conversations with other potential candidates. So that way BSU members can make informed decisions on the voting in November. Trill, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead.
No worries. That was great. Thank you, Nikki. And I think, yeah, thank you so much for, riding out with us. We're trying to figure this out, but we definitely hope to have other conversations like this with other candidates. And as you know, we're recording this, and we're going to try to post this on either YouTube or Instagram, and you can talk with us afterwards. What about that? But yeah, we're going to have our demands posted on our IG, and yeah, so that's our.
And yes,
that's,
and
that's it. But do you have any questions for us? Like anything you
yeah.
about?
I mean, just like a few things. I think it's like the students, I think, are a really important part of the Board of Trustees race, right? And this is a citywide election. So everyone in San Francisco, you need like 200,000 people to vote, right? And it's a massive election. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of Democratic clubs. All of these different groups are involved. And I just think that it's really important that students at City College are also involved, and that, you all are engaging in this political process as well, because it's the trustees that sit on that board impact you all. You are the students. You are paying to go there. You go there, and so I really appreciate, again, and I appreciate and admire your advocacy and your engagement. I think it's really inspiring. And I think I want to know what are some things that you want to see in the next trustee? Or in one of the four. There's like 4 up, so.
That's a big one.
I'm actually scared to answer this question because,
yeah, we don't really want to,
I really want to.
We don't want people to tailor their answer to us. But
only because
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
but
that makes sense.
Let's definitely make we have definitely heard what you're saying. It does resonate, but yeah, we're still trying to keep ourselves so we can present this to our BSU and also people outside as not an endorsement, but something that we're trying to present to give everybody a concise view, and so they can choose in November.
I am just looking for someone who realizes that.
No,
I think most people know by now that the world is not fair for everybody, and so somebody who wants to make the world and higher education, especially community college, a little bit more equitable. I mean, totally equitable would be great, but I don't think it will happen in the next year or two. I think in maybe 50 years, it'll totally be equal fields, and everybody can do whatever they want, and their skin color and where they grew up and their socioeconomic status has nothing to do with their succession. But unfortunately, it is. So we just want someone to notice that things are inequitable, not for only Black students, but for all different students, different religions, different minorities, different religions, all of that, and to realize that they're being treated unfairly, they're upset, they have something to say, they have demands. How can we make them work? Just somebody who will look and see how angry people are and want to actually fix it. That's all anybody's looking for. Yeah. To notice that something is wrong, and I'm going to stick my head out, and because I'm a representative as well as basically a public servant, I'm going to help people.
I think, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think here makes a great point. I think that whoever the next candidate, in this, I'm speaking for, I think most students at City College, we want someone to listen, because sometimes we feel like our voice is not being, they're listening, but they're not hearing us. And that's really important to us, especially in this time, and to have more equity, because there is no equity at our school, or at least it's really small compared to what we can have. So I do think that that's something that I believe, you know, all the student, like all students want to hear, you know, they want to hear our elected representatives to listen to us and listen to everything we have to say to all people, our religion. So I think that I really appreciate your work, Aliya. I think you do an amazing work. I have worked with you times. You have always listened to what I have asked you and try to find ways to try to, you know, help me with the concerns and stuff. I know that BSU they're getting to know you, but once they get to know you, they will end up loving you because it is something you have demonstrated with actions, not just with words, you know. And I'm just like some of the BSU members are tired of just work. We need more action and less work and less meetings about what it can be done. We want to see the change done now, you know.
Mhm. I totally agree with you, March. I am in complete 100% in agreement. And yeah, look at me. I'm trying to filter myself. Formality. It's a formality. All right. I'll text you guys all after this.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think if there's anything you wanted to respond to, Aliya, feel free. We did great on time, so good job, everybody.
Amazing.
This was great.
This is my first Zoom call that wasn't an hour. This is amazing.
No, this was great. Thank you so much for inviting me, for hearing me speak. Marge, like, thanks for coordinating too, and thank you all for making this happen. I'm excited, and I'm glad that we were able to connect.
Yeah, we'll be in contact. Don't worry.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody, take care.
Take care. Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you, and Aliya's team. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Pop up here. And